Welcome to the Five Stack. My name is Dean. That is Zev Shalev. Zev, of course, narrative.org. He is the author of the Greatest Heist series, one of the world's best investigative reporters, expert on Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein. We're not going to be talking much about that today because we did all that yesterday, and we've got 5 bangers for you today. My apologies again for the start of this, coming a little late. I was doing everybody else's shit this morning. You ever get into those modes where you want to sit down, you want to get to work? With me, it's writing, planning, doing some brand work for other people.
Yeah.
In the cannabis business a little bit as well. And I did nothing on my schedule today. I did absolutely nothing on my schedule.
But you did other people's things, so that's good.
I spent from 9 o'clock in the morning until 2:30 in the afternoon doing other people's shit. OPS. And listen, I've got a great family. There is nothing I hate more. Hi from Stockholm, Charlotta Jensen. Nice to see you. Hi, everybody. Hi, Wolfgang. Sup, fellas. Constitutional Patriot. Nice to see you. Come on in. We got a couple hundred people in already just listening to me yammer. But they can all relate with this because they're smart people. Yeah. Only smart people who are driven to go and do their jobs, that sink their teeth into stuff. And they're all on our Substack because if you're here, that means you're not paying attention to anybody else's bullshit, and we love you for it. So y'all can identify with this. Hi from Kathy from Austin, Texas. Great to see you.
Other people's shit.
Other people's shit. OPS. Nothing makes me angrier at the age of 52 than spending what little time I have left doing OPS. Nothing. To the point where I become so selfish. It's like, hey, Dad, can you? No, I can't. Why not? Well, I'm busy. Because I've been doing OPS for the last 25 years with 3 men.
That's not being selfish. That's being there for yourself. You know, that's what Oprah would say. She would say, you know, you're there for yourself. You can't be ready for other people until you're there fully for yourself. So if you're fully together and you've meditated and you've present in your moment, only then can you serve other people.
Well, today I wanted to serve nobody but myself, and I didn't do anything. Hi, Ellie. Nice to see you. I didn't do anything other than OPS. So everybody, take your time. Do your own stuff. Don't get angry like me. Don't flip out like me. Just get busy doing your own shit. And when someone says, hey, can you help me? Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you go get beats? Hey, can you do that? Hey, can you just say no. Just say no.
Tell them to take the monkey off your back. The monkey off your back. Yeah.
Oh, it's a monkey, all right.
It's your monkey.
It's your monkey. You take that monkey down the street, take him for a walk.
Yeah.
I'm not into OPS with your monkeys anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Take your monkey away and
leave me. Get rid of the monkey. Anyway, great to see you. We've got a busy show for you today. Sorry to rant off the start. Where are we starting today, my man?
We have a big show today. We're going to take you around the world with so many big stories happening. Some you've not even heard of yet because they're just beginning to break right now, but you'll hear it here on the 5 Stack. We begin with the Canada story, which you've been covering so brilliantly on deanblundell.substack.com. Prime Minister Carney just completed a diplomatic blitz through Kyiv, Warsaw, Berlin, and Riga, locking in $2 billion in military aid to Ukraine, critical minerals deals with Germany, defense agreements with Poland, and extending Canada's NATO brigade in Latvia until 2029. The tour positions Canada as Europe's go-to partner for resources and security while explicitly shutting out Trump's America. But what we really are seeing is a shifting of the balance of power in the world. Everyone is moving. The United States is no longer on its own. It's no longer part of the free world. It's now joining Russia. What does this all mean? What's happening?
Well, I'll tell you what it means. It means that Trump has abdicated America's responsibility to be the world police. Trump has abdicated America's responsibility to be the shining city on the hill. Trump has attacked all the people that Mark Carney has paid the entire week's visit to. And he's rolled them all up. Mark Carney is very fucking smart. Since becoming the prime minister, and again, I repeat, fucking thank God he's our prime minister. Since becoming our prime minister, this man has relentlessly met with leaders from different communities in Canada to make the vision of this energy corridor, retooling our military, retooling our energy supply, making sure that we can retool ports that have been out of business, fixing railroads, fixing rail lines, getting a procurement office up in place. So he's done all the work here to prepare the way for what he's doing right now. And what he's doing now, and it started this week, with a legendary announcement in Ukraine $2 billion in immediate aid, drones, armor, medical aid, training, whatever they need. And it's right now, no strings attached, no questions asked, no one has to pay. We're just going to be involved in the rebuild because it's what Canada does. We live by values, virtues, and we're a country full of fucking beautiful character. And Mark Carney exudes that. And what Mark Carney did is, after he dropped $2 billion there, he zipped over to Warsaw, Poland, and met with Mr. Tusk. And he conducted a comprehensive review of our pending agreement with them, which he signed. The agreement includes raw materials, steel, energy, liquid natural gas, and another extended security package with Ukraine, for Ukraine, and working with Poland to have a reciprocal military and security deal, meaning you get in trouble, we'll be there. We get in trouble, you're going to come here. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So you can take Poland off of Trump's dartboard. And then
You know what? I'm going to keep them there because
well,
I'll
we'll
tell you
get to that in
the
just
next
a second.
story. In the
Yeah,
next
we'll get to
story.
that in just a second because we got two competing factions of the Polish government, which we'll talk about. So then you've got then he went to Germany, wrapped up a historic deal with Friedrich Merz, the new chancellor of Germany, where we're going to be giving them all the raw materials they need, all the steel they need, all the steel Trump has tariffed, all of it. Whatever you need, we'll give it to you at market value. And Merz is like, great, we need it. We also need lithium, copper, nickel, rare earth, because, well, Germany builds pretty great cars and EVs are the future, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Wasn't going to get that from China, knowing the axis of evil, and those are not their allies. So we secured that deal, but a part of that deal is building and manufacturing a raw materials export package that we can regularly get to Germany, but also manufacturing German munitions, German armament. And Germany makes incredible war machinery. They really, really do. They have some of the most cutting edge technology. They're smart, and they've committed something like 10% of their GDP to rebuilding and rearming. And so Canada is involved in that. That deal was done. Then he just wrapped up in Riga, Latvia, securing yet another 3-year deal to supply forces, Canadian forces, a deterrent force to work with the Latvian army, Latvian Navy, to work with Latvia to do what? To fend off Russians, to build infrastructure, to make sure that we have boots on the ground, which we have about 2,000 in a Canadian brigade leading a steel brigade over in Latvia to protect Latvia and help plan for the eventuality of a Russian invasion. That also came with an economic security deal as well. And then he's going to fly back and he's going to announce how Canada plans on bringing this to fruition with a One Canada plan. It is truly, absolutely some of the most quietly stunning security work, economic work, diplomatic work
Yeah, it
that
sounds like
any
Biden.
prime minister has ever done, and he's laying it on the table while Donald Trump talks about grass, steals FIFA trophies, and rots in the Oval Office, saying the most ridiculous shit. Canada is motoring past Trump's America, and we're just filling the void, collecting partnerships that he has absolutely dusted over the
I
past
love
7 years. I couldn't be more fucking proud of this country
how
today, Kevin.
passionate you are on this story because you really are, into it. But let me just throw a couple of things in here. So Carney is achieving a lot. He reminds me a lot of what Biden is like, very quiet and stealth-like, did a lot of good work diplomatically, what I used to call diplomatic jiu-jitsu. That is basically what Carney is very good at, very quietly shifting the world. But at home, things aren't looking so good. There's a new Abacus poll that came out today that says conservatives are leading 41% to 39%. It's the first time Carney's been trailing Polyev or the conservatives since taking office. Now, I know it's not a significant number, but it's saying something. It's saying, people at home don't already know what you're doing. You're being so stealth, and maybe you're not communicating that as much to Canadians.
I'm really glad you brought that up, and this is a sticky wicket for me because the guy that owns Abacus is a dude named David Coletto.
Yeah, don't you go there.
David Coletto is a conservative-leaning strategist, pollster. We have several polls: Nanos, Ecos, Ipsos, Angus Reid, Abacus. There are others, 338. There are a few outliers. But about a week ago, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this because Coletto actually threatened to sue some people this week over it. He put out numbers that you can't even qualify as fucking outliers.
Okay.
And he said, look at that. Look at that. The conservatives are up by 2 points. Nanos, Ipsos, Ecos, Angus Reid, and by the way, Angus is a serious conservative guy too. Every major other poll, every single one, has Trump up. Sorry, not Trump. Carney
Carney.
up by at least 12 to 15 points. The liberals at least 12 to 15 points over the conservatives. And poor Mr. Coletto, maybe he's got research that nobody else is entitled to. Maybe his sample was a little off. I don't know. And I'm not saying he fudged it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's disinformation or misinformation for the purposes of injecting his business model or helping into the atmosphere or helping Pierre Poilievre and the conservatives. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is when 12 other research firms are within a 1 point margin of error of each other and they're all saying the same thing, and someone comes out with a fucking poll and he flips it around.
Yeah,
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Okay, you can blame the polls. You can blame the polls the polling companies if you want. But there is a sense. I will say this is true for the United States. It's true for Canada. There is a lot shifting in the world stage, and people don't really appreciate it or understand what's happening. Domestically is what people think about. You know, their pocketbooks is what people think about. They don't think about, is Ukraine being shifted from one country to another country? Are the alliances of the world shifting? They think about, hey, can I afford my food this month? Can I afford my groceries this month? Can I actually plan that trip that I want to take with my kids? Can I upgrade my car? Can I do all these kinds of things that are just going to make my life better? And while the world is shifting in many, many ways, you know, Trump is still maintaining a decent, but low approval rating, but it's still, even while he's militarizing cities, you know, he's convincing people that is good for them because they're beautifying the cities and they're removing the homeless people. They may even reduce the crime rate. Therefore, of course, it's natural that we would like to have military in the streets. So I don't know if it's okay. I mean, sure, you can blame polling companies, but sentiment-wise, I get the sense that there are two stories going on. There's the global story of the world realignment, preparing for a world war, and then there's the domestic stories in both of these countries, which is much more about what people can see right in front of their eyes. And that is still taking center stage for most people.
Yeah, listen, I don't disagree. I think that is a very wise statement, but I'm just going to show you a picture and then we'll go on from there. Okay. This is just on my computer screen. You can see Abacus at the top having conservatives up by 2 points.
Yeah.
And then you've got Nanos, Liaison.
So what are the polls on those? What are
Leger, Nanos, Palace. The liberals are up by at least 10 to 15 in each one of those.
In each one of those, okay.
Yeah, with the exception of Abacus's latest beauty. And listen, this is going to come across as shitty because Frank Graves from Ecos is a good buddy of mine. He's a great guy. But it is impossible for me to imagine that someone like David Coletto or Angus Reid, who got in trouble last year by launching a series of ridiculous fucking gaslighting tweets about Trudeau that were entirely untrue, proceeded to delete his account. And Angus Reid would be maybe the most heralded pollster in Canada.
Right.
It is impossible for pollsters to remove their bias. It is impossible for pollsters connected to every single political party to put out absolutely unvarnished numbers ever. You heard what Donald Trump said on Rogan about polls. Remember that? Or he's like, what about the polls? You're down the polls. He goes, polls don't matter. You give someone, $5,000, you say do a poll, you get whatever poll you want. I believe that largely to be true this day. And it's going to get me in trouble even just saying that. Because I believe polls, by and large, are pretty accurate when you aggregate all of them. So if you aggregate all of them and you put, Mr. Coletto's Abacus poll in there that says, well, people are coming back to the conservatives, it can't be true. It's not fucking true. And here's the other thing. And I really want everybody to pay attention to this.
Yeah.
Approval ratings, right? Carney versus Maple Maggot Pierre Poilievre.
100% Carney's way ahead of that.
68%. He has the highest approval rating of any prime minister at this stage of his time in office than any prime minister in the history of this beautiful, great, free, beer-drinking, poutine-eating, baby-saving, women-protecting, lumberjack-chopping country.
Even when you take all those polls together and you look at them on an aggregate, it looks to me, at least through some of these polls that I just quickly looked at, that the Conservatives are still up 4% and the Liberals are down 4%. Now, that's not a huge number because there is still such a big gap between the two. The average, by the way, shows the Liberals at 44% and the Conservatives at 39%. That's a 5-point gap. But so it's not 10 points. It's maybe less than 10 points. But it is also showing a shrinking of that divide. And that is completely normal after a honeymoon
Sure.
period like Carney's
Yeah.
had. Of course, that's going to happen, first test of government. But it is
Well,
happening.
and let's
And
be
it's
serious.
worthy
This
of
is
noticing,
there.
worthy of noting, because I
Yeah.
think that the communication piece of it hasn't happened. The vision hasn't happened yet from Carney. And I hope he has time to do that on his return from Europe.
And listen, that is an entirely saleable point. Is when do we get shovels in the ground? When do we start seeing earth movers clear track for this energy corridor? When do we start seeing shipyards being rebuilt?
Yeah.
He's been the prime minister for what, 3-4 months now?
Mm-hmm.
3-4 months?
Yeah.
He has cleared the path, secured the deals, going back to the original premise of our conversation. And my understanding from people in Carney's orbit is it's shovels in the ground by September. It is procurement office making sure that these projects not only get greenlit, but start, no fucking around, no red tape. Let's go by October, November. And this is a very, very different project that Canada has ever taken on. It is earth changing. It is, from the energy corridors to the security agreements to rebuilding Canada's military at the same time, building drone factories, coming up with strategy, working with other countries.
It's brilliant.
It's not something that you can do overnight. And here's the catch. Is all the anger that you hear that moves those polls is from these maple maggots and these trolls and Russia and MAGA going, he can't do it. He's no good. Look what he did. Like, conservatives are angry if Canada institutes tariffs on the United States. Conservatives were the angriest that Mark Carney dropped those CUSMA tariffs, which we are tariffing the United States at 2-1. So none of them are really very bright to begin with. That's the epidemic that we have here. However, to your point, there's a sluicing over time, right?
Yeah.
And the party ranks far lower than the prime minister. And the party is still around 10 points ahead.
Dean, you're right about everything, and you're just sold on these guys like in a million ways. But I still think there's a communication piece that's missing. I'm a Canadian, just like you, sitting in Canada. I don't see and feel that people understand what Carney's doing. I know you do. I know I do. But there is a missing piece that the communication isn't getting through to Canadians. Maybe it's because of the disinformation. Maybe the disinformation is so powerful that they're not feeling it. They're not seeing it. And we need to counter that disinformation with some real, this is what I'm doing in real terms, not just doing it behind the scenes in the stealth way he does.
Yeah. And listen, you're right. You're 100% right. I kind of appreciate the stealth because when he shows up in Ukraine and drops $2 billion and says, hey, they're going to build a drone factory with us and for us, and we're going to help them arm it and give them all the raw materials for it. That came out of nowhere. Right.
Yeah.
And Mark Carney is a master strategist at the same time. He's got his PhD in economics. Deal's not a deal until it's a done deal. So why talk about the deal, right?
Yeah, but we need the people to be behind Carney in a big way because that's exactly what's going to terrify Trump and MAGA and everybody else around the world who's leading into dictatorships is the fact that the people are wholly behind someone like Carney who's going to make big noise for a big message to the authoritarians. Moving into our next story, it's related, it's not unrelated, but Poland's government, this is the other part of Poland's government, as you're going to point out in a second, is preparing to sever Starlink's internet services to Ukraine, caving to pressure as Trump signals he wants to stop blindly throwing punches. It's a big deal. This would cripple Ukraine's military communications because Starlink has been a really important part of it. Not cripple entirely. They found some alternatives. France and others are working on alternatives. But the fact that Poland is splitting down the middle here a little bit, because as you point out, there was a deal signed between Tusk and Carney. The other part of the government, the presidential part of the government, is not in the same camp. Maybe you can explain it better than me in terms of what is going on in the Polish politics. I'm not an expert in that, but it does seem to be alarming that Starlink could be taken away from the Ukrainians.
Yeah, from what I understand, and I'm not an expert in Polish politics either, but my friend Thomas Lukasik is. He's a Canadian MP doing God's work out in Alberta, trying to keep Alberta from seceding from Canada. And he's got this Forever Canadian campaign going on. Encourage everybody to go and have a look at the petition. Go and sign it if you can, especially if you're in Alberta, become a canvasser. And what I understand is in Poland had recent elections for president. Is it President Donald? Yeah, Prime Minister. Um, and Poland's got two different tiers of government, right? You've got your prime minister, and then you got your president. Donald Tusk is a centrist. He's not a socialist, but he's socially minded, and he is in charge of the country. But they have this faction of the government that is led by another dude who is a Putin apologist. He is a fascist. He is anti-Ukraine, and he doesn't think Poland needs or wants to have anything to do with Ukraine anymore. So there's this internal struggle in the Polish government between one faction and the leader of Poland and the deputy leader of Poland and this other faction. And so the other faction, which is run by, and his name escapes me at the
Yeah,
moment.
it's
And if you know,
tough name. I was looking for two, and it's a tough name to pronounce. I don't even think we'd get it
yeah,
right if we
I'm not
tried.
even going to try. But folks, if you want to put it in the chat and help us out today, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But there is another faction of the government that is trying desperately to throw as many sticks in the spokes of the relationship that Poland has with Ukraine because they're hugely aligned with Vladimir Putin, big fans of Donald Trump, and they're on board for this axis of evil. So Poland's a bit of a battleground right now. And that's why you have this gentleman and his faction saying, nope, we're going to end Ukraine's ability to access Starlink, which in itself would be a death knell for Ukraine, and they know it. But this is straight from the Kremlin. This is straight from Donald Trump. Nobody else.
The last time I checked, Starlink was an American company. And does this actually suggest that Trump as well is moving away from supporting Ukraine in its entirety? Because, the Starlink is one of those things that is a no-brainer in terms of a U.S. company should be supporting Ukraine. Of course they'd be supporting them.
Yeah, and it's weird because Starlink's a private company, and Elon, that's the other thing. Elon's been awfully quiet lately, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has been.
Like, not a word. I haven't heard anything from him. He has effectively stopped trolling Trump over the Epstein files. He's stopped threatening anybody that is covering up the Epstein files. Said he'd out them all. Said they'd all get posters. And he'd run primaries against them. Was going to start the America Party. Nada. Nothing.
No.
So I think that there's something there, if you will, when it comes to Elon Musk. I don't know. With this whole idea that Donald Trump is now nationalizing businesses and considering going after Lockheed Martin. That was the latest. Howard Nuttall said that in an interview today. Yeah, they might nationalize Lockheed Martin, which is absolutely fucking hilarious. Which is also, when your supplier is the person, when you supply your own war equipment and you make money off that war equipment, you're going to start some fucking wars. So that in itself is a weird alignment. But it's very interesting to see that Elon Musk has not said anything or done anything when, nationalization of different industries, specifically huge defense industries, communication industries, chip industries like Intel, seem to be in the crosshairs of what we're talking about here. So I don't know, and I talked to someone the other day and they're like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Elon's been given hey, you step out of line one more time, we're just going to take SpaceX, the Boring Company, Tesla, Starlink, you name it, we're taking it. Because we're the fucking government, and we can just declare that you have a monopoly, and we'll take it and socialize the whole thing, and we'll give it to all of our oligarch friends and shut you out. So that's one of the rumors that I've heard. Interesting.
It's interesting. I heard as well that, Elon is so tied to Russia that maybe a lot of that investment is actually Russian investment in Starlink. And that is why they have so much control over whether Starlink gets access to or Ukraine gets access to
That might be an
Starlink.
Easier way to explain it, yeah.
The other thing that's interesting in terms of what's happening in the world, just as we look at the way these players are playing right now, is that President Xi Jinping sent his first message to Zelensky, to Ukraine, really, in 2.5 years. It's the first time he sent anything to them in this amount of time, which is unusual. Zelensky...
Other than insurgents, by the way.
Yeah, other than insurgents, he's been helping
weapons, ammo, microchips.
drones, building a whole drone industry in Russia. But It is an overture, which you haven't seen in 2.5 years, and people are asking why. Is this because, is the United States backing away, making room for China to sort of, step in as a sort of neutral party, even though they're not very neutral? Or are they actually willing to step in now in order to seem like the superpower of the world and solve the crisis that the world stage is currently seeing? It's an
What did
interesting
the
thing to
notes say?
watch.
What did the
Hmm?
notes say? Is there
Um,
any report as to what he said
Yes, there
to
is, but you're going to ask me detail
Zelensky?
I don't have in front of me. Give me a second.
Yeah, I need to know that as we continue. I'll go find it too.
It was a Ukraine Independence Day message, and it was entirely. I was just looking for it to just move down the list here. It was one of these. We look forward to working with you and collaborating with you. It didn't talk about war. It didn't talk about peace, but it was definitely one of those, overtures you would send that was neutral enough to say, we will work with you. We want to collaborate with you. We are interested in being part of your world, which currently China has been sort of withdrawn from any Ukraine relationships for a long time.
Yeah, I know they've been withdrawn from Ukraine relationships, but if you know anything about China, they play all sides.
Yeah,
And then they'll pick a side that they know that they can get some traction with, and they'll hammer away at that side. If you know anything about China's involvement with, hi Lawrence, hi Rachel. If you know anything about China's involvement with Russia, then you know that Russia gets a lot of equipment for their drones, a lot of electronic equipment, including manpower from China. Right? You've got Chinese soldiers in the field. I find that odd that I find it also very CCP that Xi would send a note while he's helping destroy Ukrainian cities and kill Ukrainian men and women.
I agree
At the
with you.
same time, go, hey, you know what? We look forward to working with you. Sure, we're helping the other guys beat the shit out of you and kill your people, but we look forward to working with you. Happy Independence Day. I find that fucking very Chinese Communist Party.
It is very Chinese Communist Party. It might be one of these things you do on the way, on the way out while you're stabbing a country in the back, or it could be that China really wants to emerge as this superpower that can solve these crises, even though they're obviously making the crisis happen at the same time. But it is true. If China decided to step away from their support of Russia, that war would be over in a second. It's really because of China that this war continues day in and day out, because they're supporting Russia right now.
Yeah, they buy a shitload of oil
Yeah.
from Russia.
Plus the drone technology and all the other
Yeah.
stuff that they send them. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
and soldiers as well, as we found out recently. Number 3 on the countdown. Former Trump Labor Secretary Alex Acosta has agreed to testify September 19th before the House Oversight Committee about his role in Jeffrey Epstein's controversial 2008 plea deal that let the pedophile serve just 13 months in prison. And even that wasn't a full-time period of time that he spent in prison. He could leave every day and go home. The non-prosecution agreement Acosta negotiated as U.S. attorney shielded Epstein from federal sex trafficking charges and protected unnamed co-conspirators. Supposedly as well, Ghislaine Maxwell, although when she was charged, they said that particular agreement did not apply out of Florida. But it is interesting that Epstein's, the new subpoenas are targeting Epstein's estate and also demand Epstein's estate hand over the birthday book of contacts, which is the one that came up in Ghislaine's testimony the other day, the one with Donald Trump, a drawing of a woman in it. They want that book as well. And it looks like the committee has it. Also, it looks like his estate has it, and they'll give it to the committee. I'm not sure what that'll prove, but anyhow.
Yeah. I don't know what any of that proves.
Costa's going to lie. Costa's going to fudge. He's a Trump acolyte. He's never going to come out there and say, I explain what he meant by espionage. He's never going to explain that. He'll just say, that's what I was told, or, and that was all I can say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, it's still, doesn't just bother me. I think about it a lot. I think about the who's, the what's, the whys. Think about how she said what she said, when she said it, who she said it about. And you think about the leading questions that Todd Blanche asked her. You think about, the questions about, whether or not Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, and Todd Blanche pushed back to go, well, no, he totally killed himself, right? And you got to wonder if this is one of those setups to absolve Trump yet again. And is Alex Acosta going to lie?
Sure.
Of fucking course, Alex Acosta is going to lie. So from Jump Street, I think you can remove the premise that they're bringing in Alex Acosta to sing about the Epstein files. specifically when he's a Trump acolyte. He's a major maggot, and he has everything to lose by telling the truth. So when he shows up, I fully expect him to catch a really solid case of Maxwell's sudden amnesia. I don't know. I can't remember. I'm not too sure. When he shows up, I fully expect him to say, this unfortunately, I can't answer that question, and to tilt the table towards that whole narrative that Maxwell started about Trump. No, I've never seen him do it. I didn't see anything in it because we still don't have the fucking files. Like, that's the dance, right? The dance is, how can we grab as many people to look like we're trying to get to the bottom of it, that instead of getting to the bottom of it, they'll just continue to support the narrative that you did nothing, sir.
Yeah, and I think what Acosta might do is try to turn the tables and blame it all on the Democrats. Find a way to either blame Robert Mueller, who was the FBI director at the time, if I'm not mistaken, or something else like that. Where he can say it's not our guys that did this deal. It was, the FBI, or it was the Attorney General. You name it. They'll find any other reasons to blame somebody else for this. Then ultimately take responsibility for himself, or admit that what he was told was that it was an espionage case and he shouldn't touch it, which is what happened. It is the ultimate truth. But he can't say that because he's got to tell us who the espionage was, or who the agency was who said that. Number two, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker went nuclear on Trump today, calling his threat to deploy troops to Chicago unconstitutional, illegal, and a dangerous power grab, with Chicago homicides and property crimes actually down in 2025. Pritzker exposed Trump's military threat as pure political theater. Trump responded with personal attacks about Pritzker's appearance while signing an executive order creating National Guard. This is important. Specialized units, by the way, for cities, and rapid response to quell any civilian violence or uprisings that might happen in the future. I mean, they really are concerned about where we're heading, and so they're building a framework for that.
Yeah, and the fight between the governors and the president is nuclear at this point, as you point out. It started with Gavin Newsom going "fuck this," mirroring the way that Donald Trump puts out memes, all caps. Trump now doesn't post anything all caps because he's embarrassed by it, and he has no answer for Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom's approval rating has gone from like 38% to 55% in the state of California.
70,
yeah, probably close to 70 in some capacities. Add J.B. Pritzker to that heroes list, by the way, of governors that are willing to go, nah. J.B. Pritzker stood up at the stump after Trump said, J.B. Pritzker sucks, place is full of crime. I don't know if you saw Trump in the Oval Office. He was all-world dementia diaper Donnie yesterday, going, there's crime, there's murder, you're getting murdered, you're murdered, you're getting murdered, everybody gets murdered. J.B. Pritzker stood there, and he's like, listen, if you hurt one Illinoisan, there is no place you will be able to hide from me, and no length of time it'll take for me to exact retribution. You are not welcome here. Do not come here. And it wasn't just J.B. Pritzker. It was city councilors. It was state officials. It was clergy from the Catholic Church at the direction of Pope Leo, a Chicagoan, by the way, to say, no, not in Chicago. And if you know anything about Chicago's crime rate now that Lori Lightfoot's gone, down 30, 40% in different capacities, murders, violent crimes down 25, 30%. They're doing a very good job of making the city safer, and in no way does Chicago need a police state, like in no way does California or DC need a police state. This is political fucking theater. And Pritzker knows this. And the personal attacks I thought were really fascinating because Donald Trump himself is dying. Donald Trump is rotting in front of us. Donald Trump is a fat, gooey, old, decrepit, rotting fucking disaster of a piece of skin at this point. And you know what he said? He goes, yeah, J.B. Pritzker, he sucks. He's the worst. He's a crook. He's fat. He's a fucking slob. You should get in the gym. And I wonder every time he insults someone and he knows he can't insult Gavin Newsom because Gavin Newsom looks like a fucking middle-aged Adonis. And he's a communications expert. He's a legal expert. He's been an incredible governor of the state for California for 20 years. And he's absolutely fucking petrified of Gavin Newsom. But he knows He knows that JB Pritzker is overweight. And so what Donald Trump does when he doesn't have any ammunition is he launches pejoratives, name calls, and gets personal. Pritzker yesterday on a water taxi when he was leaving, he's like, listen, about the weight stuff, has he looked at himself? That man is not in good shape whatsoever either. And all he's doing is projecting how he feels about himself on me and everybody around him. Donald Trump is bankrupt of ideas of how to motivate or scare people without physical force, which is why, and you know what? These governors know that now.
Yeah.
And JB Pritzker won't be the last. Miss Hochul in New York, Wes Moore in Maryland. You're going to start seeing physical pushback on behalf of people in states where Donald Trump wants to theatrically send the National Guard in and these special response units to quell protests. But what he's trying to do is quell protests about him because people fucking hate the guy.
And this is not coincidence, by the way, that the governors are governors are coordinating their efforts. In fact, there's a very good article that came out in the Existential Republic, which is Chris Armitage, who writes on Substack. And this article talks about what they're calling soft secession. And he says that this is what American federalism looks like in 2025. Democratic governors holding emergency sessions on encrypted apps, attorneys general filing lawsuits within hours of executive orders, and state legislatures quietly passing laws that amount to nullification of federal mandates. Oregon is stockpiling abortion medication in secret warehouses. Illinois is exploring digital sovereignty. California has $76 billion in reserves and is deciding how to deploy it. Three sources on these daily Zoom calls between Democratic AGs say the same phrase keeps coming up, though nobody wants to say it publicly: soft secession. So there are daily Zoom calls between AGs, happens at 8 o'clock every morning, where they're discussing how to coordinate all of this. It is interesting. California Governor Gavin Newsom called state lawmakers into a special session later this year. Well, we know all this stuff already. But what we're seeing is a concerted effort by Democratic governors and their AGs to push back. The question I have is this idea of soft secession is pretty tricky. You know, when I look at what Vladimir Putin's plan is to do to the United States, he wants to do to the United States what was done to the Soviet Union, which was the end of the, greater empire of the Soviet Union. And the states that made up the USSR were broken up. Latvia was one of them, Lithuania was another. We had all these, Ukraine was another. So his determination is to break up America. And this theater that you're talking about all the time, this theatrics that Donald Trump is doing by saying, we're going into all these states, is designed to provoke governors to do exactly this. It's designed to provoke them to sort of secede, to break up, to move away from the rest of America. I think there's a smartness, obviously, in all of it, and they should be pushing back and they need to protect their citizens. But the idea of secession, I think, is really dangerous. I think it's exactly what Trump and Putin want for America, and would be better off if we were arguing that we should stay unified, but still push back on each of these initiatives by the administration.
You bring up a fucking amazing point, Zev. So well said. One of the things I used to love about America was, and loved about Canada, and this has flown the coop, and is how didn't matter who was the governor of what state or the senator of what state, who the president was. They always held the person in office in the highest of esteem, right? Where, if the president wanted to do something in a state, the governor of that state would say, well, I'm looking forward to speaking with the president. And they would put their arms down and they would have a conversation in the best interest of what they were trying to accomplish. Now, there's theatrics behind that for sure, but generally speaking, it was this two-way street that was really respectful because of the office of the president and the office of the governor, right? These are highly respected, very powerful people, whether they govern federally or whether they govern via state. That's gone. It's gone in the United States. It's gone in Canada. You've got the governor of California literally mocking Donald Trump's illness. You've got JB Pritzker bringing every leader in Chicago together to tell the president of the United States to go fuck his hat, right? Soft secession, and it's interesting that you bring that up and you tie it into the way that the USSR shed all of those countries post Glasnost, right? Because that was America's goal. America's goal was to give Europe back to Europe and to make Russia small again. Russia's and Putin's goal is to make Russia big again, which is why they're trying to go after Ukraine, and they want to put back the empire of the USSR. That stems from Putin being a KGB agent in East Germany who was basically left for dead when they pulled the wall down. He's been angry about it ever since. Just a little backstory for everybody. And to your point, the sadness of breaking up these United States of America isn't so sad when you think about who the president is and what he's been doing. And there's this country to the north of the United States of America that would love, and I mean love, to add Washington, Oregon, California, Chicago,
sure,
Vermont, Maine, maybe Nebraska, a little Montana, if you will, to the confederation of beautiful provinces with universal health care and a charter of rights and freedoms that says you can't own a gun. your rights and freedoms stop where my face begins, reasonable limitations. And there have been conversations, and this is the interesting part. There have been tabled conversations and the start of bills in California, the state of California, to secede from the United States of America. As an idea, if you want to look at it the way that Russia shed all those countries and broke apart, leaving the USSR in tatters for years, so be it. But I look at it like, man, I mean, the possibilities of Canada getting Canadafornia, that would be lovely,
amazing.
wouldn't it?
I mean, that would be amazing. The only problem is Canada is still a crown country. It still has a king. And the beauty of America is that it has no king. It is a
but our king's like he just kind of shows up for like a speech here then with like swollen hands, and we don't give a shit about the king here in Canada.
If the king says something, the king gets something.
No, he doesn't anymore.
He's got the Privy Council. He's got all these things that he can.
Doesn't matter. It's all fucking hogwash.
He read the speech from the throne this year.
Yeah, whatever. But he's what does he do? He's got zero power in Canada. Like he's got none. He's got zero.
He's got some power. He's got some power.
What? What power does he have in Canada?
We don't
he's got
the
none.
Privy Council. He's got some appointees on the Privy Council. He's helped to, there's all sorts of things. I'm not saying he runs the country, but he is still the king. It's still part of an empire.
It's cute.
The beauty of the United States is that it has no king. Yeah. And the last thing we should be, pushing for, and I don't mean you, I just mean the idea of the secession. It seems so lovely because you get to say goodbye to all these rednecks and you say goodbye to Donald Trump and you get to move away from all this craziness. But it's not good for the world. At the end of the day, what we need is a strong, liberal United States that is actually able to stand up for human rights and stand up for the Constitution and be an example to the rest of the world of what democracies should be like. And if we turn away from that idea, the United States of America, we're going to lose that very precious thing that has propelled us for the last 70 years into a world which is much safer, much more equal, much more just, much better a world than we were 80 years ago. The problem is the president. The problem is Donald Trump. It's not the people of the United States, and it's not the Constitution of the United States. We have to get rid of the president.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And listen, as beautiful as it would be to add California to the Confederation here in Canada, it will never happen. But California is the fourth largest economy in the world.
Huge. And
they have the ability to cripple the United States government. The alternative here is this, okay? Because this is how these things start. Civil war. That's the alternative here, where you have Governor Gavin Newsom, who is in charge of the biggest economy in the United States of America. You've got J.B. Pritzker, Kathy Hochul, Illinois, New York. You've got Baltimore, whatever. You've got several really powerful states who are aligned here. And I don't know what it says in the United States Constitution where there's a standoff between a state rights, and the feds and federal rights when it comes to law enforcement, when it comes to secession. But I can tell you this, is that we're at that fever pitch now in the United States of America.
Yeah,
that we are at that point where you have governors going toe to fucking toe physically with the president of the United States, who is a dictatorial autocrat and an authoritarian. And you have a president who is lame duck. You've got a president who is deeply mentally and physically unwell. And there is blood in the water. And these governors know that. And so, what happens when a guy like Donald Trump, who is the leader of a de facto cult, says to the Proud Boys, put on some masks, which, by the way, is how you know America lives in a dictatorship. You got a Secret Service with no badges, no names, no masks that are able to do whatever the fuck they want, whenever they want, wherever they want, which is why these governors are saying, stay the fuck out of our state. And there's going to be a time in the very near future where Pritzker, Newsom, Hochul, somebody, some governor, as you see the National Guard roll in, they send their people to prevent them from coming and going, or they send their people to send the National Guard home. And now you're pitting military against military, National Guard against National Guard, law enforcement against law enforcement. And that is how civil wars begin, my friend. So
it's also how coups end, I
Yeah.
mean, because I've been spending a lot of time digging into the coup of 91 in Russia, which is why I'm so focused on that, just because of the greatest heist chapter that I'm researching. It's really interesting that, ultimately the military never did that coup because the rank and file were not supportive of the coup. And so they tried for a few days, and ultimately Yeltsin and his team prevailed. And you saw those famous pictures of him on a tank at the end there, ending that coup, and that, led to the end of the Soviet Union. And I think you'll find the same thing here. These National Guard people that have been posted into Illinois or California or any of these other places, they're not going to do anything against the people of America. They're not going to do it. They'll do. There may be incidents where they do something, but the reality of it is they're not going to crush any protests because of unrest or anything like that. They're just not going to do it. I can't see any American fighting against another American in that situation. And I think we should just call Donald Trump's bluff. But the risk is that we're buying into the state versus Trump idea. And I think we should be careful of buying into the states versus Trump, because he's got no real power. It's a lot of, let me show you my big guns. Let me show you my troops. But he doesn't have any real power to do what he needs to do there. And we should just be laughing at it and calling his bluff rather than buying into this, that, governors versus federal states, or governors versus other governors in other red states. I think that's dangerous, that we'll end up with a situation where we will lead to civil war when maybe we don't need to go there.
I disagree. And I'll disagree on one really simple premise. I watched what Trump did with those ICE raids in LA. I watched him send Customs and Border Patrol to a Gavin Newsom speech to harass people outside with no name tags on, masks on. I watched it. So when you say he has no real power, I've watched him exert it. United States is watching
to a large extent. It's optics.
It's optics, but dude, they're snatching people off the streets in California, and they're snatching people off the streets all around the United States of America. They're disappearing people all over the fucking place.
We should systematically resist every possible incursion into our state rights. Absolutely. But let's not fall into a trap of making this into a civil war. Let's not fall into a trap of making this against red states versus blue states.
But hold it, dude. Like, we don't get to decide that. That's the thing. And again, like, full transparency, we're sitting in a rainy city of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, looking in from the outside, and there are 400 million guns in that country. Not here. There's 400 million guns in that country. And the reason why that Second Amendment existed was in case the government decided to go rogue and come after you, right? That's why during the days of militia, during the days prior to Civil War, where they wrote the Declaration of Independence and they said, here, this is the Second Amendment. This is to protect ourselves from government overreach and the government coming to my house to take my shit. So they said, here, everybody in the United States can own a gun. It's a God-given right. It's in our Declaration of Independence. It's one of the amendments. Okay? They don't think like us. The Americans do not think like you and I. And just like how you can't tell the people in Russia, like, hey guys, aren't you sick and tired of having your sons and fathers sent to the front lines to the meat grinder? No, because they think it's a special operation to denazify Ukraine, because that's all the information they get. Very similar in the United States. And then you add the God-given right that every American has at the time of birth to go and get a firearm. And the purposes of that is grilled into the heads and the minds of children, whether you want to call it propaganda or not, that we have these guns to protect ourselves from them. Well, who's them? Who's them? It's a guy that is sending masked Gestapo into your house, into your place of work, into your churches, into your streets, into your playgrounds to kidnap you, to attack other governments, to make state governments and states feel less scared all the time. And there is a boiling point for those people, and it sits around the midterms, 2026, where he's going to say, hey, listen, it's too scary to go vote, so we're just going to cancel the election. Or, hey, you can go vote, but you're going to have to get past these guys first. There will be a time, and I read something the other day where an ICE agent was shot, and it was very quiet. Like, it was an ICE officer was shot. I didn't get the details, and I'm like, I fully expect there to be so many more of these news stories that come to the forefront. And I fully expect God-fearing, gun-toting, real patriots in the United States of America who know what real freedom is to say, no, 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 no. You're not coming for my nanny. You're not coming for my cousin. You're not coming for me. You're not coming for my freedom or my ability to vote. Because the most important thing to Americans, number one, is freedom. Well, he's circumcising that as we speak, militarizing every city that he doesn't like, that he knows won't vote for him because he wants to rig the next election, because he knows he's going to fucking lose. So I don't count it out. Not something I want. I want the same thing you want, which is a strong America, America that is together, that works together for the greater good, that is that shining city on the hill for the free world to be able to rally behind, that is an ally to all democratic countries across this globe, that is our old best friend, Canada's old best friend. Of course I want that back. Everybody wants it back. Everybody in the chat here wants it back. Every single person that's in this chat, that is watching this, that is commenting, whether it's Kat or Oaths Matter or JK7 or Patricia. And I know, Patricia, it's terrifying. However, this is, you can't ignore all the other standards, all the other aspects of America that make America what it is. And that hasn't been tested in 200 years. That hasn't been tested since the fucking Civil War.
You're totally right about all of that, and well said. I am also saying that we shouldn't let this guy bully us into breaking up this union, that we should stay a united union, and that Democratic governors and Democratic states need to reach out to the Democrats in those red states and their citizens, their fellow citizens around America, and say, we're all being attacked. We're all having our rights taken away by this executive branch, by this regime, and we need to fight back in a united way as people against this regime. It's not about red versus blue. It's about human rights. It's about our rights. It's about liberty and equality and justice.
It's about getting rid of your dictator.
Yeah. Get rid of the dictator, simply put, yes. Now, that actually tied into sort of our number one story, which was all about the blue and red state divide. So I can tell you what it was, but you can tell me what it was, because on the deanbandel.substack.com. But we sort of covered that vibe a little bit, didn't we?
I think we actually covered not just the vibe, we covered the whole thing.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
I think 2 and 1 are the same thing. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think a good place to kind of wrap this up is, and we do this daily, 3 o'clock, 5 stack. Please subscribe to Zev. Please subscribe to this if you can. Paid subscribers are always more than welcome. 50% off annual subscriptions, and never pay more. You can lock it in and never pay more than 50% of our annual subscriptions, which do go up. I think a good place to kind of to wrap this up is knowing what I saw in the Oval Office over the past 2 days, and what makes what America's going through now even more dangerous is how incredibly unwell that man is. It's how sick Donald Trump is, how mentally shattered he is, how emotionally fucked he is. I watched yesterday and today a geriatric buffoon, a man who's got nothing left in the tank, talk about wars that he's ended, talk about how the EU gave him $950 billion, which was $650 billion last week, and in no way, shape, or form is accurate. I watched him complain about the slob in Chicago, call Gavin Newsom, threaten Chris Christie. I watched him talk about how he wants to be a dictator, and a lot of people are saying in the United States they want a dictator too. I'm watching his, like Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Nutsack standing behind him, looking dour, like they are owned, like he is their master. And I have never been more afraid for the United States, but I've never been more hopeful at the same time, because at the same time, I'm seeing so many beautiful Americans join us here, share our work. I'm seeing U.S. governors come to the rescue of those United States of America. I'm seeing out of the box thinking. I'm seeing real patriots in America say, no, 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 that's enough. And we have the power to make sure that doesn't happen here, as opposed to rolling over. And I'll end with something JB Pritzker said yesterday in his press conference. He challenged the media, the United States media, to stop sane washing Trumpism, stop sane washing authoritarianism as an idea to clean up DC or Chicago. I watched him beg mainstream media to hold him to account. That's the importance of stuff like this, conversations like this, is if you can share this with 3 people, bring 3 people here. If you can share JB Pritzker's comments, if you can share Gavin Newsom's tweets, and by the way, Camille Zapata is his social media manager. She is fucking awesome.
I really did.
She's killing Donald Trump right now, and he hates it.
I read about
it.
her. She's great.
She's phenomenal. Give her
29
all the
years old.
Yeah. She's just a fucking hawk. I love her.
Yeah.
This is the resistance. Pockets of it that come together and grow together. So please do us a favor. Make sure you join the resistance. We're like the fucking Rebel Alliance for Democracy here in Canada and the United States. Please support truth tellers. Please support people like us, Midas, Lev, Cohen, Vicky Ward. Please, please, please continue to share this information with as many people as humanly possible. I'm not trying to scare the shit out of the United States. I want our best friends back. And that's why we do this on a daily basis.
And that's a beautiful ending. But I wanted to say one more thing. Can I say one more thing?
Of course you can.
There's this, we started with the show talking about Ukraine and how Canada's in there trying to defend Ukraine, which is one of those states that broke away from the Soviet Union in 1991. And now we're talking about states here in America wanting to potentially break away from America. And the thing is, everything's in reverse here, of course, because what the Soviet Union was worthy of destruction, the United States is not worthy of destruction. And what Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump are trying to do to America is what America did to Russia or to the Soviet Union way back when. But it's because communism was failing. It wasn't because it needed to just end. That empire had good reason for ending. Our empire does not have good reason for ending. And I think it's important that that defense of Ukraine is the same as the defense of the blue states, is the same as the defense of the red states. It's the defense of American values and American rights, which is what we ultimately stand for and which we all universally agree with. And once we harness that, we'll be able to defeat this menace that's in Washington, D.C. right now.
Well said, my friend. Great way to wrap it up. Yeah.
All right. That's the show today. deanbladell.substack.com. And narrative.org, NARATIV.org. We both have 50% off our annual subscriptions right now. Check it out. We'll be back tomorrow at 3:00. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, guys.